I mentioned this to Sharon in the chat, but there's not a lot of kids from Michigan in this group. Of the top 30 ranked kids from the state, only one is going to Ann Arbor. But in his defense, there are only 7 four-star kids in the state of Michigan this year. That's not a normal number. Normally, there would be a higher amount for sure. Let's turn our attention to the Iowa Hawkeyes. Here's a look at some of the kids they are bringing in, and you notice a bunch of 4-star players here. There's a reason behind that. They might have the most 4-star players that they've had in the modern era. As of now, it is 8 different 4-star guys going to play for Kirk Ferentz and company, as he just finished becoming the winningest head coach in the history of the conference. There's a cornerback, Jake, that stands out to you named Darian Jones. How come?
Well, he's the perfect fit for Iowa because he excelled as a cornerback. He also excelled in special teams. He's a 4-star corner out of Nebraska. Actually, his brother plays for Nebraska, so that just feeds to the rivalry. Phil Parker pitched him to start as a cornerback, but he wants to cross-train him at other positions. But remember, I told you he plays special teams. He had 4 touchdowns on special teams, including 2 punt and 2 kick returns, so the special teams coach, LeVar Woods, absolutely loves that. He's just a playmaker in all 3 phases, had 11 touchdowns as a wide receiver, 8 interceptions as a defensive back. So he's the total package across the board. Also for safety, Marcelo Vitti. This guy was committed about a year ago and was the first defensive commit in their class. He's a 4-star that chose Iowa over other Big Ten schools and big programs. 6 foot, 190 pounds. Really, he's the perfect body type to play that cash position of Phil Parker's defense, a very important position of that defense. He's going to early enroll in January to get on campus, learn the playbook, and maybe contribute as a freshman.
I think it was vital for Iowa to get a quarterback talent in this class. They had a decommitment earlier in the cycle, and they flipped Traydon Bessinger late from Boise State. Very, very prolific guy. 6'4.5", first of all, 210 pounds, so he has great size. Put up huge numbers in high school, but also a good athlete who played some basketball. Big pickup there late in the cycle. Iowa finds sleeper defensive backs with regularity. A lot of them come from Michigan. I think Ronnie Hill is one of those guys. He had a really outstanding offseason, went to Iowa camp. That's another thing they love, is to get guys in their camp and evaluate them. When Phil Parker gets a DB in camp and offers him, usually that turns out pretty well. Ronnie Hill, I think, is a steal. Another late flip was Jack Janda, just flipped this week from Wisconsin. You see a lot of clips here of him playing tight end. He's going to come in as a defensive lineman for Iowa, and I think he's an Iowa type of guy. He had a really, really outstanding year as an interior defensive lineman. He shifted inside from the edge, 6'5" plus, probably more like 6'6", 250 pounds right now, and I think that's a position of need that they were able to fill with that flip.
Carson Nielsen, 4-star, 6'7", 275, outstanding offensive lineman. Think about Iowa. This is what they want to develop. He plays a little high at this particular point because he's really able to dominate at this level, but he has outstanding feet and able to really move his defenders off the ball. Does a nice job of attacking and wants to be able to finish. You see the nastiness there. And Julian Manson, this guy here is going to be a difference maker. When you think about his size at 6'4" as well, he is absolutely the type of player that Iowa loves. Is going to be able to move him all around the field to find out what position ultimately is going to fit him the best. But you see him doing an outstanding job of using his hands, not allowing the offensive players to get into his body. Really a terrific player, and I think has a great chance to help them early.
Quick note on the quarterback that Alan was talking about, Bessinger, 2nd highest ranked quarterback to go to Iowa in the modern era. And we know there's a need at that position to get some offense in Iowa City. You know, for a long time, Kirk Ferentz and Pat Fitzgerald were the 2 longest tenured head coaches in the Big Ten. Well, not anymore. Pat's brand new at his new job as we turn our attention to Michigan State. Fitzgerald just signed, literally hours ago, replacing Jonathan Smith, as the Spartans were only 4-8 last year. Here's a look at some of the recruits that are going to be going Pat Fitzgerald's way, and there's a decent amount of 4-star talent, especially when all of a sudden there's a brand new head coach. And one guy that really stands out is a wide receiver named Samson Gash. We understand he likely will not sign until technically the 2nd signing day in February, but there's a reason he's on a lot of people's radars.
Oh, no doubt about it. And also his brother is on the roster right now. Michigan State wants to play. His dad was one of the great fullbacks in the National Football League, Sam Gash. But this young man is really an elite player when you start to think about just his ability to make plays all over the field as a receiver. He can just do it all. See him doing a great job of high pointing in the slot, knows how to find the openings in defensive backfields, and just his sheer ability to run is really what's going to give them the ability to make a lot of plays with him. So hopefully they'll be able to keep him or be able to get him to sign, because he can be a true difference maker for them. Adam Shaw, linebacker, nasty kind of guy, really wants to play downhill, sees and diagnoses plays really quickly to get to that point before a blocker can get up to that second level to make a play. Does a tremendous job and has done that. He'll have to continue to develop his body as he gets into the weight room, but his instincts to get upfield and be able to really avoid people is outstanding for him.
Cade Kaufman, Michigan State got him committed towards the end of his junior season, had a good junior year, and then just a fantastic senior year. This guy has it all. He's got the arm, really great head on his shoulders, processes very well. Broke a lot of big runs as a senior too, which was a new wrinkle to his game. Led his team very deep in the playoffs, actually lost in the semis to Samson Gash's team, but really, really like the all-around game of Cade Kaufman. Joey Caudle, you'll see him playing quarterback. They're gonna convert him to tight end. Almost looks like a Northwestern superback for Pat Fitzgerald, but really, really good, tough football player who also played on the defensive side of the ball. I think he's one of the best guys in this class. Michigan State's had a lot of great players from Ohio over the year. So I think this guy is an absolute steal.
Pat Fitzgerald got the anchor of his offensive line and offensive tackle, Colin Campbell. He's a four-star, one of the best tackle recruits in the country. 99th percentile length. He stands at 6'7", 6'10" wingspan. So this is a mountain of a man. But for a guy that big, he does a great job of mirroring opposing pass rushers. He's got good feet. Look at the athleticism and then the violence. That's an offensive lineman if I've ever seen one. How about edge Chris Addison? He's a 3-star defensive end out of Louisiana, but he's more than just a defensive end. He was a weapon offensively and averaged over 20 yards per catch in his 3 seasons. So this guy is just a football player. His favorite move right there is that up and under spin and swim move, but also has great quickness and agility, as you see there, playing slow and patient through the read option, making the tackle. You also get a chance to see those long arms that are key for every great edge rusher.